Okay, hi, welcome back. We are here today to discuss why you need to be truth maxing. And what is truth maxing? Truth maxing is telling the truth of your soul, no matter how scared you may be of what the consequences are, no matter the conditioning that you may carry as to why it feels hard to tell the truth. And to tell the truth means wholeheartedly the truth as we feel it from our heart. There's no white lies. There's no sugarcoating. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about what is the truth to us, what resonates within our soul. So when we talk about telling the truth, we're talking about telling the expression from our soul, what we really need to get off our chest. It's about setting boundaries with people. It's about being honest about how other people make us feel. It's about being honest about how we feel. It's about honoring our needs. It's about setting boundaries and upholding them. So when we are really in the mode of telling the truth and being honest with others and being honest with ourselves, we are being the most loving version of ourselves, even if it doesn't feel loving to set a boundary, to be honest, to tell someone something that may hurt them or upset them, to disappoint them. But that the truth is the most loving frequency we can offer. It sets us free and it sets other people free. The truth is everything that is within our soul and everything that is not, that is in our ego, that is within our programming, our people pleasing, our fawning, the expectations of other people, all lies within the ego. It lies within the programming that we are here to clear. That is no longer ours to carry. That is part of the 3D vibration of the earth that is being cleared. We are here to end the cycles of people pleasing, of victimhood, of lying, right? Of not being our true selves and not expressing our true voice. So that if we're going to do that, we have to really be comfortable and feel safe in our nervous system to tell the truth. Hang on, I have to let my dog in. He's scratching at the door. Okay, pardon my interruption there. We have to get really comfortable in our nervous system with telling the truth. We have to be okay with how people may respond because some relationships can't handle the truth. And on some level, we know that, and that's why we avoid telling it in the first place. But that only shrinks ourselves, that if we can't be fully honest, if we're not comfortable to be ourselves, to assert our boundaries, to use our true authentic voice, we're doing a disservice to ourselves and to them. So it really is about finding the inner safety, the nervous system regulation. It's about understanding our programming enough to build a home within ourselves so that we can feel safe to be our true selves, to express our voice, to assert a boundary and uphold it, to tell the truth when it may not be a convenient truth. Okay? And so any of us who have been taught, which I'm going to say this is like 99% of the population, that choosing yourself is selfish, are operating out of the old paradigm. They are operating out of guilt, obligation, suffering, fear. You see these really low states of being, frequency states. And anybody who exists in those states wants to keep other people in those places too, because misery loves company. And that they themselves have not stepped into their own power. They themselves have not addressed the conditioning that they have inherited from their parents, their ancestors, society, their friends, you see. So that they're perpetuating those patterns. And so they're going to project that onto you if you start to step out in the mold. Because they're thinking, how dare you? If I'm staying stuck in here, if I've been taught something that being a good friend means you have to sacrifice yourself, that you have to just stick it out, no matter how uncomfortable you may feel, if that's what they've been taught, then of course they're going to project that onto you because they are upholding that system within themselves. So why would they give the green light for someone else when they're not allowing themselves to do the same thing? So ultimately, with this work, we are freeing ourselves from the bondage of these heavy, heavy, heavy expectations, of the fear, of the control, the manipulation, the guilt, the narcissistic traits, so that we can be free, again, to express our voice, to be our true selves, to set and hold boundaries, to tell the truth when it's not convenient. And that we're building that sense of safety within ourselves. And to do that, my belief is that it happens through practice, that it's not gonna feel easy at first to assert a boundary, to tell the truth when it's inconvenient and it may disappoint or hurt somebody else. It's not going to feel easy at first when that has not been our default mode. That if we have conditioning that says that we need to do otherwise, to have safety, to have community, to be a good person, right? To not take up too much space, then it's going to be hard at first because that's not how our nervous system was wired based on our beliefs, based on the karma that we've brought into this lifetime. But I'm telling you that it is possible, it is necessary, but it's like a muscle that you flex, like when you go to the gym. You have to work at it each and every time that you feel the need to shrink yourself. You have to step into the version, just like someone who steps into the version of what an athlete is, that they start going to the gym and making that their lifestyle. You have to step into the version of someone who owns their power, who expresses their true authentic voice, who knows who they are, right? Who doesn't shrink. You have to start living that by being courageous, by living out of your heart center. You have to start living it by literally doing it, even if it feels scary, right? So even if your nervous system is screaming at you, no, don't do this, even if your subconscious beliefs are saying, you're being selfish, you're being a bit of a bitch, you should be more understanding, you should be more considerate, right? We're always going to have that when we're trying to step out of that old identity, we're always going to have the old pieces of ourselves coming back to try and wrangle us back in. So it's going to take courage and it's going to take commitment to really step into a new version of yourself that can, yes, assert yourself, that can hold boundaries and set them, that can speak your voice, right? That you feel safe enough to hurt people if you have to. That by being honest, people's feelings might get hurt. But that is theirs to feel and process, right? It's not for you to caretake and prevent other people from confronting the truth about themselves. That's gonna hurt. But you are doing a disservice to everybody, including yourself, if you perpetuate those patterns, right? If you give in to them. So that's why this work is so difficult, because you are going to have a lot of people who aren't gonna like you if you're stepping into your truth and your power. They might project their narcissistic traits onto you and call you the narcissist if you're being difficult and hard to control, right? See how this works? So that everything that somebody who is under that old illusion, everybody who is sitting in their narcissistic traits or full-blown narcissism is going to accuse you of exactly what they're guilty of. That every accusation becomes their confession of what they believe about themselves, about what they have been enacting in their life. So that's why in this work of becoming our true selves, of stepping into our power, we can't take these things personally. I get that's easier said than done. And again, that's just part of the practice of doing this enough, doing the repetitions to really start to see the truth, right? Of doing the inner work of understanding what's you and what's them, so that then you can really get clear on what is a projection of somebody else. What is that pattern that you're witnessing within them? Because like I said, of course, if somebody else is living those self-limiting beliefs, if they are shrinking themselves, they're sure as hell not going to understand if you're not doing that, right? They're seeing everything through the lens of what their existing programs are. To people please, to fawn, to live up to the expectations of their parents, to be a good girl or a good boy, right? To stick it out in hard times, no matter what, right? Till death do us part. Do you really believe till death do us part in marriage? Because I sure as hell don't. I believe in till as long as this thing serves us, for as long as this works between us, right? We're ending the old 3D era of control, of manipulation, right? Of fear-based thinking, of guilting other people, shaming other people into not complying, into not doing what they want to be doing, what is true to them. So we have to be really careful about what other people are projecting onto us, and that's when we have to use discernment, okay? Discernment and intuition. And that is how we can then spot what is ours and what is not ours, what is theirs to deal with, right? So I've had plenty of moments in my life where I have had to be brutally honest with people, where I can feel Spirit is saying to me, let it rip, like start the chainsaw. Let's really break it to them. Let's be honest. That doesn't mean being mean. That doesn't mean attacking somebody. That doesn't mean attacking their character. That doesn't mean name calling. That is not okay. That is absolutely not what I'm talking about. But I am talking about honesty and not sugarcoating what it is that you have to say that's on your heart. So that if I have someone in my life whose behavior I don't find acceptable, that is hurtful to me, if I can see the ways in which, let's say, for example, they're guilt tripping me, trying to control me, manipulate me, trying to make me feel bad for something that I did not do, right? If I can spot those, then I have the ability to now see what is theirs and what is not mine, to not personalize it. And that it is my duty to be honest with them about what is not working, about what is the truth that I am feeling about how it makes me feel, and to set, assert, and uphold my boundary. And oftentimes that involves walking away, unfortunately. Because again, like as we're discussing here, many people don't like being shown the truth of who they are. They will go to great lengths to avoid the discomfort of taking a deep, long, hard look at themselves, at what they've been doing, so that then they'll project it all back to you. They'll make an assault on your character. They'll say this is your fault. They'll say that you're being cruel, that you're being unjust. They'll say that you're just projecting onto them, right? They'll do anything that they can get their hands on, anything in the book of deflection, so that then they don't have to look at themselves and sit with that pain, with that shame that they've been covering up, right? Anything so that they don't have to dissolve the identity of who they've been that is not really them, because that is too scary, that is too painful for many people, so that they'll do anything they can to make it your fault so they don't have to deal with that. And that sure is convenient, because then if anybody asks them, like what happened with that person? Why'd you guys break up? Well, then they can say, oh, well, she's crazy. She's a bitch. Narcissists will go as far as making up straight up lies about you. She cheated on me. She did this and that, when none of it is true, right? This is the backwards world that we live in. And this narcissism that is in the midst of a great collapse is at the root of all the dysfunction in our society that keeps us controlled, that keeps us in fear, that keeps our nervous system in fight or flight, right? It's all based on control and manipulation to disempower us from making decisions for ourselves that are healthy for us, right? It's all to keep us from becoming too powerful, to becoming too sovereign on our own. Because if you have a society full of people who can't be controlled, then the powers that be who are trying to control that society are going to be unsuccessful. So they know how to work with the tools of the mind and psychology to project fear so that people will then comply voluntarily. That is the definition of a narcissistic society. It is all a projection, right? So this is, again, what other people will try and do, whether they are a narcissist or they just have narcissistic traits that they are reenacting the conditioning from their ancestors and their own inner child wounding. They will try and project it always back onto you. The amount of times that I have been called insensitive, a bad person, a bad friend, for giving up on somebody, blah, 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 blah. It's a whole list. And yeah, in those moments, I felt really bad. But I had to get to the deeper truth of what were they saying that was just a reflection of who they were? What were they not willing to look at and take accountability for? Because I'll be the first person in the room to say I'm sorry. That if I have done something wrong, I will apologize for it if I believe that it is worthy of an apology, right? If I have done something to hurt somebody, if I have been dishonest, right? We're all human here. We all make mistakes. I will, of course, admit that. I've gone so far as to look back and say, God, like I over apologized with this person. Whereas they never even once gave me an apology for how they treated me, for the disrespect that they threw in my face, right? So again, you really have to start getting in touch with your discernment and your intuition. You really have to start choosing yourself over and over and over again. So that then truth maxing, telling the truth, isn't a threat to your survival, like as it feels, right? That your nervous system is aligned, that your truth and who you are is already known within you. It's integrated. So that then when you come up against the goddamn nonsense of the world, and it is out there, it's everywhere. You don't have to go looking for it, but when it finds you, it doesn't have to be all this drama and all this trauma. You just see it for what it is. This person is enacting limiting beliefs. This person is enacting narcissistic traits, or maybe this person is being a narcissist, whatever the case may be. You have compassion for them. You send them love. You are honest if it's safe to do so, right? Abusers, physical abuse, that is a different story, okay, obviously. But if it is safe to do so, you are fully honest. You share your truth. Don't expect them to understand it. And when things start to go a little hairy, you remove yourself. You don't need to keep explaining yourself anymore. The last point I'm going to make is you have to be comfortable being the villain in somebody's story. For real. The amount of people out there that think that, just like I said, I'm a bad person, I'm insensitive, I was cruel, yada, 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 the list goes on. The amount of people out there, I just have to let that go. I honestly have to laugh. Like it's silly, right? The ideas that people have of me. But if I let that keep me up at night, I'd be getting no winks of sleep. And I sleep very well, thank you very much. Because I know that the way that other people see me does not define me. That people are going to make up all kinds of stories about me, and they will for you too. If you are honest, if you tell the truth, if you reflect back to people who they are, right? If you hold people accountable. This society, again, stuck in narcissism, does not like that. So where the hell was I going with this? Be your true self. Express your honesty. Don't expect people to understand you. Don't account for it to always go well. But if you know who you are, if you are firm in who you are and what your truth is, then it won't matter, right? You won't need to explain yourself. You won't need to be the good person because you know who you are, and that's all that matters. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. All right, guys, I love you so much. Thank you for being here and watching this video. And if you've gotten this far, please give my video a thumbs up, and you can subscribe to my channel for more. I'm trying to put out a few videos a week. And I would love if you left a comment on what resonated with you, what stuck out to you, maybe something that you want to have explained or talked about in another video. I love reading the comments and connecting with you guys there. So please add a comment and let me know your thoughts. And I'll be back in a few days to talk about something else. Okay, bye.